Hi everyone, welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Altcoin Bible. I'm going to be looking at a cherry ripe, one to watch, and a danger zone, just giving my thoughts and analysis on the charts. I'm going to be looking today at Optimism, Litecoin, and Arbitrum, not in that order. Let's crack straight in and see what I'm seeing. So just give you a bit of background here. Bitcoin had a bit of a falling over, and then the altcoins obviously follow. That's how liquidity works in this market, especially in a lower liquidity environment. If Bitcoin shows weakness or strength, altcoins will respond in kind and often to a greater degree in those directions. So again, Bitcoin had a bit of a rollover. We saw, a lot of these altcoins have, double-digit percentage drawdowns, which is really interesting. And we're hitting these core levels of support on a lot of them. So a lot of opportunity down here, I do think, on most of them. But again, guys, when you watch these videos, I really try and target those lower risk options, which just trying to avoid a lot more of that more speculative, meme coin side. Last week we covered Pepe because it looked good. It was in relevance. A lot of people are talking about it. I want to see what it looked like on a technical level. Right here, though, I'm focused on Litecoin. Now, Litecoin, I've had it in so many of my episodes because it's just shown so much relative strength during periods of instability. Now, it has had a bit of a rollover from those upper bounds of, 85. So 89 was where it was, been in this range since, April. It's just going sideways, sideways, sideways after the rollover from 100. Then it's been falling down to another key level here at 80. It fell down to 85, which was a hugely consequential level in terms of support over here. You can see the volume. Then it's rolled on over to 81. It actually dropped as low as 75. That was the ultimate point, in my view, of value. It can absolutely go lower. But if we're thinking Litecoin should have a bit of a bump into the Litecoin halving towards August, then these kind of levels are starting to look really, really tasty. You can just see here, it hit 75, which is on the real tail end of this volume over here on the right-hand side. And I'll just drag this across to see a bit better. And then there's a bit of a drop. So if it goes beneath 75, which, it's possible, but it feels unlikely at this point. It's hard to make those kind of calls. It all depends on Bitcoin. But 75 is a really strong point of support. We're also seeing over here the RSI beginning to tick up after, making that lower low. So it does look like a bottom was formed. The last time we were at these kind of lower levels was when Litecoin made this prior low around about 65 back in March 23. So all these things kind of lining up, and you see on the momentum indicators, stock RSI is at a bottoming point, MACD is at a lower point. So things are starting to sort of click for me. MACD is about to turn over, stock RSI is improving, RSI doing its thing. This is on the 4-hour. I think we just have to be careful here as Litecoin tries to climb its way out. Well, I think, and we've had that bounce from 75 up to 80. So what is that? A 5%, 7% move, give or take 8% move. We've run right into the 21 moving average on the 4-hour, and I've overlaid the Fibonacci retracement tool there just to give us a bit of help in terms of finding those support levels. But now everything above us that we've just sort of chopped beneath, and you can see by these boxes that I've drawn, are now going to form resistance. So as we climb up, it's going to hit these little zones and pockets of moving averages and, volume support. And traders are going to sell into that. So that's what we just got to be very wary of. Now, if you're a diagonal fan, I had this diagonal drawn, all the way through here, just seeing what would happen, thinking we may have seen a breakout here, but couldn't get above these moving averages. We almost did. It fell over again, and it's really respecting this downward channel. You can see bang, break here, come back and retest, clear, bang, hit it there, come back down, swath right through, up again, bang, all the way down, and back again through it back into the 21 moving average. So I think we just got to monitor this. But Litecoin for mine, it's showing that relative strength that I've seen previously, that I'm speculating that it's going to move harder once Bitcoin stabilizes. So rip back up to these kind of 80, high, mid 88 levels, high to mid 80s. That's where I can see it returning to in relatively short order, because these areas are really strong in terms of that value for those longer term investors looking for that halving narrative. Let's just go to the daily quickly and have a look. So now it's pretty clearly in a range, and this might give you a little bit of pause though. When I'm saying cherry ripe on the 4-hour, the daily, we just really want to crack back above the 200 200-day moving average rather. That's a pretty significant level. See over here, we're beneath it for a little while, but then we crack straight above. That's what we want to see here. We want to see Litecoin just rally right back above, and that's when we can get really confident Litecoin's returning to those mid to high 80s once we get back above this 200-day moving average, and before that, it's a bit hard to, get too confident on it. But overall, out of all these cryptos, there's not too many that look, okay at this point. So you can look down on the 4 hour, the 1 hour to give you more of that shorter term perspective of things turning around. But when we see that close above the 200 on the daily, then we can start to see these higher levels get taken out. Just seeing the MACD just sort of pause there, histogram started to turn over, MACD turning around. RSI had a nice touch of the 30 level there. So things are pointing to me that, we should see Litecoin move higher. So absolutely my cherry ripe. Once it gets above that 200, expect maybe the 21 to get hit at 86. So that's where I see it. Then you can start to take profit into some of these levels, or that's where I would look to take profit into these levels, and the volume higher, 87, 86, and then we'll see where it goes into the halving. All right, Arbitrum, absolutely one to watch for mine, because it has, and there's a bit of noise on this chart. What I'll do, I'll get rid of some of these momentum indicators. We just have a look here. So not much price history here for Arbitrum. It's a recent airdrop, but importantly, and if you follow these videos, you'd see it. I've mentioned previously that Arbitrum is a layer 2 token built on Ethereum to help it scale, but it has the most value locked away in terms of US dollars on the platform. So it's absolutely one to watch. It's a trendsetter in that regard. There's a lot of love for Arbitrum fundamentally on chain. So it's just very curious to me, if it finds a floor, where's it going to be? And generally with these newer tokens, it has a bit of a sideways or a big pump up, but then eventually it always comes back to the point it started at, which is very fascinating. So if we were to draw a Fibonacci retracement tool over that here, you can see here it's pretty much just ripped through all these levels, and you would have been sucking in here. And I know I was pretty keen on Arbitrum around here at the 0.786, so 78% retracement. This is actually retraced fully. So it's gone, the full retracement gone a little bit lower. So that is a gut punch. There's, here at $1, it just looks to me like it's completely oversold. So this is at least a good position for a bounce. You can see here how low the RSI is, but again, there's just not a lot of prior price history, so you don't know whether it's going to stop here or go lower. Again, there's no volume beneath this, so you just don't know, again, how low it goes. But I suspect, and I've seen in a lot of cryptos in the past, that and especially ones with decent fundamentals, is that when it starts to get back to these levels of the first sort of retracement, it comes all the way back. Generally, there are pretty good points to look for value, and I'm certainly looking here for a bit of value for Arbitrum. Anywhere down to that $1. So the psychological mark, I think it didn't pierce the $1 mark. So for now, that gives us a bit of a guidepost that $1 is going to be defended. And this is, you can almost look at this as, now it's climbing back these levels. How strong is it going to be in this rebound? It's a bit choppy in here in terms of that volume. But here, that's where it's going to face the most resistance. $1.16. You could almost wait for this to move up into that area, get beaten back a little bit, retest this little area in here before it does try and move out. But this 21 moving average, this blue line here, that's on the 4 hour, that's where you'd expect to see that resistance come in, because it's confluent with the volume support on the right hand side. Again, the RSI actually looks really good for a bit of a relief here. So just be aware of that. Longer term investors will be looking at this quite keenly as sort of levels to layer in dollar cost average. You can see here I've got alerts for all these levels on the resistance bands, and it just fell all the way through. So sometimes you don't get it right. It's always good to look at layering in your position to lower your average buy price if you're keen on an investment like this. So we're just going to have to see whether this $1.10 area holds up or whether it wants to come back down. But so far, this is absolutely one to watch. Look at this. So again, the whole market right now is in a state of correction. It's trying to find those levels of support and whether they're strong, and if not, they're going to go lower. Bitcoin is obviously trying to find itself as well around that 27,000 mark, whether that is a strong support or it wants to go lower to the 100 moving average. All these altcoins are linked and tied to what Bitcoin's about to do. So if the altcoins aren't responding, then all eyes should be on Bitcoin, and you should wait to see a bit of confirmation, a bit of strength in Bitcoin before really getting into these altcoins. So I just wanted to make that plain. All right, Optimism is my absolute danger zone. Now, I circled this previously because I was just looking at this. Now, if you're trading Optimism all in here, I think this is almost the point where Optimism is about really fall over and then validate all this up here, or at least find a lower level, a lower floor. And just looking at the volume down here, the next serious point of support for Arbitrum, well, Optimism is down about 1.39. So that would be a fall of 17%. It doesn't have to get there. I don't know if it will get there, but you can just see structurally how this is falling over. You see just broadly, if I'm going to draw a pretty crude chart, kind of was invalidated at that point, this triangle. And again, I can draw this as crudely as possible. So go from the bodies, you can see there, it came down, lost all these moving averages, and this is on the daily. The 200 is generally a pretty good point on the daily where you'd expect some pretty strong resistance. This is just sliced right through it, and it's closed beneath it twice. So that is not a great sign. And when it loses, I don't know if there's any price history on Optimism losing these, like, the 200 doesn't even go back on this chart. So this is not a good sign. And for mine, again, I think that is a fairly obvious point down in this area here. When it loses these major moving averages and it has a couple of closes, you can see a couple of candles, and the big one closed beneath it, then the second one closed next to it. Now we're looking like we want to drop even further. That's a pretty decent sign that we're at least going lower. Now, that said, sometimes these things fake people out, and we see this sort of move down and maybe a little bit further, a big wick, and then we have the rebound. That could absolutely happen. It does look a little bit oversold and stuff, but I would just caution everyone. You look at the RSIs and things like that, you think, okay, there's a lot of selling in here. It does look oversold, but again, it's just a representation of where the market is. If it is in these lower points, it just means that sellers are totally in control. It can stay there for longer than you think. And it can push prices down a lot longer than. So you could go, sort of long or buy a position here, thinking because the RSI is at a low point, but that doesn't mean it can't drop down here, and the RSI can't go, much lower, down into the low 20s or 15s, and price can really push you further than you think. So just keep that in mind. It's a bit odd to me that layer twos aren't getting much love here, based on the congestion issues on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. They seem to have had a bit of a bump, and now they're falling over. So just be a little bit wary entering altcoin positions right now, unless you have that longer term focus and you're looking for those key levels of buy and support. So with Optimism as well on the way up, if you can snag something here, then on the way back up, the same rules apply. You'd be looking to dollar cost average or average your buy price through these levels of support, on top of these previous peaks, maybe down at these areas. So you can see that 1.17, 1.2, 1.3, start snagging in there, and then you'd look to take profit off when it comes back and tries to retest that 200-day moving average rather, because that will be pretty solid resistance above. So you can look to sort of time it like that, and then just do the reverse on the way up. So guys, hope you've enjoyed this episode. Always have a blast. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you again for our next one. Bye.